Did you know that 76% of professionals believe that in-person conferences offer better networking opportunities compared to virtual? And you might think digital's the future, it's all online, but when it comes to relationships, deep, actionable insights, you can't beat face-to-face connections at industry conferences. And yet a lot of people fail to see the ROI from these events. But if you're going to spend time and money on conferences, are you ready to maximize every ounce of value? This is the Accounting Influencers Podcast, where we help leaders, managers, and influencers in the accounting world build executive presence, credibility, authority within their firms, and also establishing a strong personal brand and presence outside in the business community and any niche sectors that you're in. And if you're looking to maintain your strategic importance and relevance, stay at the top of the disruptive forces in the accounting world, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into one of the most underutilized yet valuable tools in your professional arsenal. It's conferences. Attending these events, they open doors. They break new opportunities. You see new technologies, new insights. And if you know how to play the game right, there's a lot you can gain from these. And that's what we're covering today, because I see so much wasted time with conferences and people going there not doing the right things in the right way. And now that we're out of the pandemic, conferences are back in force. They're evolving, yes, but they're full flow. And it's not just lecture style sessions. A lot of these modern conferences are multi-event, multi-sensory experiences. There's workshops, there's events, there's panel discussions, there's online quizzes, but very few people fail to capitalize on them. So you're spending money on tickets, travel, accommodation. That's all not cheap. You've been getting it paid for by your firm or your network, and you're probably missing out on a lot if you don't know exactly what you're doing. So it's not just getting your ticket to the game, it's making sure while you're in the game, you're playing the best possible game that you can. So the first thing I'd say to you is set really clear objectives. Why are you going? What are you looking to achieve? It could be finding new clients. It could be learning about emerging trends, technologies, discovering the latest ways to do this or that. It could be clarity on career. It could be just creating industry connections. It could be raising your profile and personal brand. All of these are not necessarily return on investment, but we call it return on objectives, return on outcomes, ROO. And you've got to look into that. There's a lot of intangible returns from attending conferences, and all of them are legitimate. You've just got to say, this is why I'm going. This is what I want to get out of it. This is what's going to make a good event for me. And knowing what success looks like, if you don't define that beforehand, it just becomes a nice experience. Yes, you might wander up and down the exhibition halls, getting freebies, going to the odd breakout, but it's the connections and the insights that really generate return on outcomes investments. It's also a good thing, secondly, to research the speakers and attendees. Whatever you can do beforehand, due diligence. These events really bring together top-level people who make the effort to come and network. So looking at the speaker lineup and seeing which sessions align with your goals. If you get an attendee list, even if it doesn't have contact details, but you can connect with some people beforehand, see what firms they're from, see where they're coming from, and then you've got a ready-made connection when you're there. So knowing who you want to meet, being ready to engage meaningfully, that's what some of the best networkers do when they're at conferences. The third thing I'll say to get the best out of them is, and this won't be a surprise to you, participating actively. Now, there are lots of ways you can do this. First way to do this is get involved in the periphery of the event. What I mean by that is conferences sell themselves on networking opportunities. So they might have a networking breakfast on the morning, a pre-networking dinner. Yes, it might mean getting there a bit earlier, but this is where you meet a lot of people. They might have very specific networking coffee breaks and lunches and facilitation to bring people together. So take as much advantage of those peripheries as you can. Second is to get involved in the sessions themselves. So ask questions, engage in the Q&A. I always say to professionals in the accounting world, if there is a Q&A and somebody's running around with a microphone, get that microphone and ask a question. But before you do, you can say, hi, my name's Rob Brown. I'm from XYZ firm. We're based in Alabama. And my role is this. Here's my question. So then everyone in that room knows who you are because they've heard it. And they might want to follow up with you, but it's you getting your personal brand out there. These are golden opportunities to get in front of good people and let them know that you're in the game. And these are not just chances to learn as well. Yes, get involved by uh, speaking out, but also what are you doing to take notes? What are you doing to capture the information that's there? What are you doing to harness the business cards? All of these are in play. You've got to get ROI from leveraging everything that happens in the following weeks. So we're going to come on to technology in just a moment, but another way to leverage what's going on at the event and keep that going afterwards is with the many conference apps that are out there. Many conferences are now doing dedicated apps, mobile apps for their event, which gives you the schedule, gives you the speakers, the sessions, the takeaways, the timings, everything. And you can get breakdowns on their website too. But whatever the event's got going in terms of apps, hashtags is another way to get involved with who's there, then use them. And this is your chance to schedule meetings with people, get on top of the agenda, start to contribute to the conversations, and flag up that you are there and people should know you. So look at the social side of things. I know you might not be of that generation or you might not get into the social, but hashtags are pretty commonplace for events right now. And it's where a lot of the side conversations are happening. Small actions lead to big relationships. Another tip here is to, if you can, schedule meetings in advance. There are lots of what we call in England nooks and crannies, but this space to breathe, space to meet. When I go to conferences and look at what happens in the coffee breaks, I see the same things all the time. People will be on their own, on their phone, not meeting anyone, or they'll be with the person that they came with. So there's just 2 or 3 people there, and they already knew each other before they went. So you think, why are they not networking? Why are they not meeting people? So one of the simplest phrases, and this is a little networking tip, but is hi, I'm, insert your name. Go up to somebody. Hi, I'm Rob. Good to meet you. It's really difficult for people to turn you down, even if they're on the phone. They all want to be in real conversations. Nobody wants to dine alone. Nobody wants to eat alone, drink alone, and unless they are like that. But when you go to conferences, you're telling the world, hey, I want to meet people. I want to learn new things. So play into that. So I want to go back to getting key meetings in advance. If you can let people know that you're going to be there, you can schedule a little coffee or a chat or a one-to-one in all those little gaps in the conference, or even miss a session or two to meet with somebody that you've got some connection with. And some of the best connections are planned ahead of time. I was speaking to a good friend of mine, Randy Johnston, runs his own podcast. He said he went to some big events recently, and he said the coffee shops before and after the event were full. He said most of them were private equity meetings, but people buying, selling, and all of these meetings were scheduled in advance. So reach out before the event if you can. Try and lock some of these down into your calendar. That way you're spending your time wisely. I'm thinking of a famous poem by Rudyard Kipling called If. You may know he wrote The Jungle Book. And in this poem, If, that he actually writes to his son, he says, if you can fill every minute with 60 seconds of running. Now it's full out, isn't it? It's full on at a conference, but you want to squeeze every ounce of juice out of it. So spending your time wisely, not chasing people down during the lunch breaks and trying to find a friend. It's getting something organized in advance. Although there is nothing wrong with working the room during a lunch and a coffee break. About getting engaged as well, what do you like at taking notes? There's so many different ways to take notes right now. If you know any students or you have been a student recently, you will know that you can record sessions, just get your phone going, and that transcribes everything into AI and does your executive summaries of things. This is a smart way of using your time. But even writing stuff down, old school, there's a lot of boring stuff at conferences. I totally get that. There's a lot of dry technical information a lot of the time, but there are some goodies as well. Some brilliant quotes, takeaways that you might miss. Hopefully you're intentional and you might write them down, but it's a wealth of information. You can't keep everything in your memory. You may have heard that phrase, a sharp mind is not as good as a blunt pencil. So taking notes and not relying on your memory to document these key takeaways, these ideas, these action points, because you want some bring back, don't you? You want to bring something back to the firm that's relevant and meaningful. You want to share some stuff with your office. You want to not just have a bigger brain when you get back, but you want some longer term sustainable behavioral change. You want to get these insights applied and take action. Otherwise, what did you go for? Was it just a little getaway, a little break, a little freebie, some time away from the office? It comes down to this. You've got pre-conference, whatever prep you can do. Then you've got engaging at the event. Then you've got your post-conference. And that's where a lot of the magic happens. So you've got to be really diligent now on your follow-up. How have you collected people's information? Have you reached out to them while you're on the event, at the event on LinkedIn? So sending some personalized follow-ups pretty quickly, reference your conversation, any notes that you made on their cards. It keeps you top of mind. It builds rapport. Speed stuns. You may have heard that phrase, speed stuns. The quicker you can act, the higher your chances of turning that relationship, that conversation into something meaningful. It could be a potential client, a strategic partnership. It could be a new friend, an ongoing exchange of ideas. All of these things are in play. But you can't just go to an event, make a connection, come back and wait for the phone to ring or wait for them to reach out to you. You've got to be proactive. Another element of post-conference is sharing with your team what you've learned. It's generous, it's strategic, it creates ROI. So whatever meeting is coming up next, get permission, or if you're the boss, take permission to have a session, a mini masterclass, if you like. Here's what I did, here's what I learned. Or just run an informal lunch and learn session. I'm going to be sitting down with a cup of coffee at lunchtime and spending 20 minutes on what I learned about this, and show that to your colleagues, see if they're interested. But you discussing the trends, the tools, the solutions, the connections, spreading that knowledge. When the team grows, your firm grows, you grow. Teaching somebody something that you've learned is the best way to learn, because you've got to be one step ahead of them, and you're going to plan that a little bit. So we're being much more intentional with conferences. We're evaluating the tools, solutions that you've encountered at the event, looking at the demos of new tech, seeing what might fit into your firm, making recommendations, improving efficiencies. All of this stuff's in play. You need a competitive edge. You need relevance. So everything you adopt, every idea, every tool, it's you measuring success. It's you trying to contribute. It's you adding some value. So pre-conference goals, getting contacts and meetings lined up. In there, evaluate the sessions, network your ass off. Post-event evaluation is you saying, what did I learn from this? What would I do better next time? Listen, as we start to wrap up, conferences are not just social gatherings. They're not just learning experiences. They are, but they're ultimately strategic business opportunities, networking opportunities, great for your personal brand, great for your influence, great for the firm's brand. They open doors, they create maybe new clients. So go in with a plan, execute your plan, follow up, treat it more than just learning, be really intentional with it, and look. Here's a final tip. Look at the people that are getting the most out of the event. They don't sit quietly at the back. They ask good questions. They engage. They network. They rarely sit on their own. So we're talking on this show about positioning yourself as an influencer and as a thought leader. Conferences give you a platform to do that. Strategy for survival is visibility. You've got to be there. You've got to be seen. You've got to be heard by your peers and industry leaders and competitors. Tell them you're serious. So this networking side of it, it's not just a checkbox for career growth. It's you intentionally building your reputation and saying to the world, I'm relevant, I'm competitive, I'm insightful, I'm an expert. It's personal branding 101, isn't it? Showing up to events. So go out there, have these conversations, build these relationships. Who knows what lies on the other side of a conference, the other side of a hello over coffee at a conference. And presumably you've chosen this conference because it aligns with where you're going. It aligns with your passions, your interests. So people there are likely to be people like you. So the networking is not just about going to meet loads of business people. It's you aligning yourself with people that hopefully have the same values as you. They're interested in what you're interested in. They want to make connections. You want them to remember you. So that's why you're going. So think long-term about this. Plan your conferences out for the year and the quarter. Get your tickets, get booked in advance, and wrap your work around this. Conferences are breeding grounds for influence, for opportunity, and, the work doesn't end when you leave the event, you've got to take all of that forward and apply it so you earn the right to go to the next conference. I've been to conferences in the past, and then a year later, I've gone to the next one and not applied things from the last one. And that's a slap on the wrist for me. And as a leader, an authority, a boss, a manager, it's your responsibility to not just go to these events, get value, bring stuff back, but set an example to your team, your colleagues. Show them how to approach conferences with a strategy, with a focus, with an intent. Show them how you're sharing the insights, and that motivates them to do the same. Thanks for joining us on the Accounting Influencers podcast. I'm urging you to take control of your conferences and all of your events. There's lots coming up in this quarter, lots coming up in 2025. Turn them into opportunities that boost your personal brand, strengthen your position in your firm, strengthen your firm's brand, set you apart as an industry leader, as an opinion maker, as somebody that's curious and hungry to stay relevant and competitive. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.